Welcome to another Platinum Greatwyrm episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, where you never know what you're going to get. Welcome to another Platinum Greatwyrm episode on the It's a Mimic podcast, where we're sitting down with one of our top-tier Patreon subscribers, Robert. Platinum Greatwyrm tier patrons are able to sit down and record an episode with us every so often, and so Robert decided that today we're going to continue, hopefully finish, we'll see, our discussion on building a cult. This is part 3. In the first episode, we talked about the organization of the cult itself. In the second episode, we talked about the individuals that make up a cult. And today, we're going to talk about the methods of the cult and more. But before we get started, Robert, how you doing?
I am doing okay.
Every time that I ask you how you're doing and you don't give me anything like above or equal to excellent, I'm always like, oh, he's in dad mode with no sleep and he's
what's
barely holding it together.
What is it? When you hear somebody say living the dream, it's like, oh, pity that person. Yeah. No, I pseudo work for the U.S. federal government, and my wife does work for the U.S. federal government. And October is a rough time because that is usually when they start arguing about whether or not to shut the government down. And
yeah, I've been seeing that in the news. So
yeah, so there's a very good chance that sometime in the next about 3 weeks we might both lose our jobs for different reasons. Not performance. Well, hers is not performance. I'm shitty at my job, but they keep me around because I'm just such an affable guy. But yeah, so.
Now, when the government comes back, are you hired back on?
Oh, no. Maybe in the case of my wife. Mine has nothing to do with the government shutdown. It has to do with a decision being made basically about the office for which I work and whether or not it needs to exist.
Jesus, I'm sorry to hear that, dude. That's rough.
Yeah. Well, but my kid's healthy and he slept through the night, so I am winning right now.
Fair enough. We'll take the silver linings wherever we can find them, right?
Oh yeah.
So let's shift into a not the American government conversation, please.
Yeah, let's talk about cults.
Yeah, let's talk about cults.
Not the American government. Let's talk about cults.
What a transition. All right.
Oh, that segue was smooth.
Fuck. All right. So for anybody following along, we're on, what do you think, Robert, like 5th or 6th episode where we're building your homebrew dark domain, right?
Oh, for the domain? Yeah, this is like 6.
Yeah. So we've been working towards this and building it up. You've got a Dark Lord who is a undead dragon turtle, or used to be, and is now a mummy lord that rides the corpse of the dragon turtle, and it's all aquatic themed. There's islands everywhere. It's very stressy depressy all over the place, and we've been building up the dragon turtle's cult, essentially.
Yeah, it's imagine you live on an island you can't leave that's shitty, and then every once in a while Mum-Ra from Thundercats on the corpse of a turtle and his like pyramid just rolls into town and demands shit. Like that's basically the vibe.
That was one of the best synopses I've heard in a while. So anyway, I've got a lot of questions about the methods that a cult uses. So feel free to jump in and kind of re-explain for people, because I know it's been a while since you and I did part 2. Because I think you missed one because of scheduling stuff, right? So like we did a whole couple of rotations through everybody else. So let's jump into building a cult here. The methodology. First and foremost, you have to try to think of where the typical locations are where the cultists will meet. Do they have legitimate temples and act out in the open? Are they a traveling carnival like the cult of Rakdos in Ravnica? Are they secretly meeting in basements for their devil worship because they're, the Illuminati and nobody knows who they are, right? Like what are we dealing with? And when we think about like where we're going to interact, not just cultists, but cultists in the middle of doing their culty shit. What do you have for yours? So
my cult is a very out in the open cult. People know that exists. People know of the object of veneration, which is the Dark Lord. And so they have, established shrines or temples in each of the settlements, as well as their headquarters, which is essentially a pyramid on the back of this dragon turtle corpse that's floating around. as well as a few boats in the fleet. But yeah, that's the thing to consider. Do they need to be hidden, or can they be out in the open? And it's always the question, well, what is the goal of your cult, and how does that influence how they act? If you have a cult whose goal is, we're going to destroy the world, they're probably meeting quietly in a basement or behind closed doors or in a cave somewhere. If you have a cult whose goal is, I need as much money as possible, which is actually sort of the case of my cult, because my cult's belief is if they can get enough wealth back into the horde of the Dark Lord, that it will have enough power to then kind of resurrect. And so they are out in the open, and they are trying to get money, and they are trying to get wealth. And so they are trying to create this attractive, attract people to them, and not necessarily the let's slowly infiltrate high levels of government, let's slowly infiltrate influential other people so that we can then enact end of the world or resurrection of demon or what have you. So my cultists typically meet in a shrine, temple, however you want to describe it. And that shrine is going to be in each of these settlements is going to be roughly the same shape depending on building materials available. But it's basically going to look like a boat on the back of a turtle. And once the parishioners and the cultists are inside, they're going to be the inside of the inside appears to be the deck of a ship, and the ceiling actually appears to be a clear sky, as if you are at sea. And it actually will go through the full day-night cycle, so that at night there will be stars above and constellations. There will be sunrise. There will be, all of these other meteorological events, which don't normally occur in the Dread Domain, because normally when you look out on the horizon, it's mist. When you look up, it's mist. And so that's something kind of unique to their shrines, is the ability to experience things that are escapist of the Dread Domain.
That's really cool. Back in July, I traveled back east with my family, and we went back to like spread my dad's ashes and stuff, and do like one big like tour of the East Coast provinces where my parents grew up, because we'll never go back. Like there's no reason for us to ever go back there. But we ended up stopping in at a church, the church actually where my parents were married and where they got my brother and I baptized. And so like I of course have no recollection of this. I was a baby, but they like my mom said, oh hey, that's the church, let's pop in there for a second. And we walked in, and it's right on the coast of like New Brunswick, which in like one of the larger cities, but I mean a large city in New Brunswick is a small town in most other places. And so it is like hardworking, salt of the earth, like dock workers and iron workers and the ship repair and stuff. And like but the church itself, the reason I bring it up is the church itself was actually designed to give you the feel of the inside of a ship, like a wooden ship, one of the long, I'm losing my words right now, but like a galleon almost. But like inside, it was beautiful. It was ornate, but you would look up at the ceiling, and just the way that it was constructed with the beams that were running the length and swelling upwards, and like you felt like even the pews and the wooden paneling on the walls and stuff, you felt like you were in a ship, and it was really cool. And there's kind of what I'm thinking about what you're talking about. It's funny that you brought that up.
And there's a subliminal message there that's very powerful. Of this is a transportative place. This is a liminal place. This place is going to take you somewhere. And if you were on the coastal town and you were riding one of these big ships somewhere, it was probably ideally taking you somewhere better than where you were, the new world, a new life, wherever. So yeah, there's a lot of symbology behind that kind of design. And honestly, that kind of woodwork and that kind of shaping, actually, that's very pretty. It's just beautiful. So
yeah, it was phenomenal. Very, very fantastic. But the other thing before we move on, when we're talking about typical locations where cultists meet, it's worth pointing out as well that we talked in depth before about the cult within the cult, like the secret organizations, because they've got factions within them that are either working against each other or the secret like head council of or whatever, right? So they will have different locations where they meet, and that will probably be a lot more secret and a lot more subtle. And you might even stumble upon it and not realize it's a cult meeting, depending on the nature of the cult. Because, like I say, it's going to be more, I want to say espionage, but it's subterfuge for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, you hit the nail on the head. The one of the more intriguing things about any cult is going to be the internal machinations of the people who join the cult, not necessarily because of their belief, but because of their belief that they can improve their life and get more powerful through the cult.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, what are their little schemes? What are their little wheels turning in the background?
So if we move on to the next question here, what makes the shrine of your cult, what makes the shrines, the altars, the places of worship unique?
So we kind of touched on the shrine already, that the shrine is going to be this ship shape with escapist, you know, it's going to be have escapist options in it that provide relief from kind of the daily monotonous horror of the Dread Domain. I think mechanically speaking, I'm going to put somewhere hidden in every shrine, probably a teleportation circle.
That
So
just makes a whole lot of sense for cults.
It makes a lot of sense for the cults, and also in a world of like, well, we're all on islands, or we're on this one island that keeps moving around. Yeah, that's a great way to, you know, well, one, obviously get around and mobilize forces quickly, but also in a cult that's concerned about material goods. Hey, we're going to use this to transport shit back to our horde, so that nobody kind of gets the wrong idea. You know, it's always there, and that would be kind of be part of the rituals. You know, when people give things, then it will get transported back. And I think we talked about the shrine. I'm sorry, the altar a little bit. The altar was going to be a large ship's bell made out of dragon shell scales or turtle scales, and you know, it's going to be filled with seawater. And depending on how it's being used, it can be used for a means of communication between other such bells. It can become seemingly solid when it's using for kind of the in front of the parish, and they're speaking to people, and they're putting things on it, just small displays of magic, making the water solid. Also, that would be another small teleportation circle, I would think. People dump their coins into it, and it's just zapped away. And then I'm sure that there's other magical uses for it. In combat, there's probably, you ring it and it does something to non-initiates in the room.
They could even have water elementals living within it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not every one of them, but a couple of them maybe, just to like surprise fuck you for every once in a while.
Yeah. And then there's a tradition that I think it's a tradition. We did it a couple of times on my Navy boats, where you would take the ship's bell down, and the ship's bell is still this big 200-300 pound bell. Fill it with seawater, and if somebody on the crew had a child they wanted to have christened in the bell or baptized in the bell, they could do that. And then the kid's name would be carved on the inside of the bell. So that was a practice that's kind of unique to the Navy, but I could imagine that being something that could also be done in some of the settlements. But what kind of power is now over you if your name has been carved on the inside of this altar?
That's really cool. The thing that I like about the details that you're coming up with, and I think the takeaway for anybody listening to this, is that a lot of the times when we do a cult, we think of the basic. I'm just going to take like the worshiping, I don't know, Zerial, for example, right? It's all going to be devil themes, going to be Avernus theme. There might be fallen angel themes. There might be, mace heads on chains, like all of the stuff that we get from looking at her. But like when we get to the temples, to the shrines, to the altars, they tend to be a black marble slab or something very simple that kind of points towards evil without actually theming directly to the symbolism, the iconography, the things that, because religions are big on this, right? They want that cohesive imagery over and over and over again. And it's not enough to have your temple full of just simply tapestries and a like stained glass window showing things. It needs to be carved into the architecture. It needs to
Yeah.
be like themed so strongly that the entire area is undoubtedly, like, no matter where you look, you know exactly whose shrine or altar this is, right? And I think that oftentimes when we deal with like the dragon cults, and there's a statue of a dragon in the corner, and that's it. Instead of the altar itself is a like open dragon mouth pulled way back and wide, and you like put your sacrifice on the tongue, shit like that. Like, we need to go more detailed with the set pieces themselves.
And I think you can, getting back to the earlier of, is your cult out in the open or are they hidden? I think you can still remain doing ornate and detailed even in the hidden stuff, right? You can still create that level of detail. Like, I'm imagining, and I'm kind of coming up with this off the top of my head, like, oh, we've got a cult in a small town, and one of the ways, all the cultists carry, say, a copper piece that has a hole drilled in the middle. Just, they all got one copper piece with a hole drilled in the middle. Oh, that's for luck. But when they meet up in their, doing their cult stuff in somebody's basement, the ritual dagger or whatever is going to be a knife where it doesn't have a handle. It's just got an exposed tang, but you slide all the copper coins onto the tang to make the handle, and then maybe one or two other minor adjustments. And then now it's a slightly elaborate, slightly personalized ritual dagger. They can still be detailed for your characters to pick up on or for your players to appreciate without being this big ostentatious thing if you're trying to be stealthy.
Yeah.
If you're not being stealthy, I mean, I hate to make any sort of analog. No, this is not meant to be disparaging in any way, but you look at like the Catholic Church and you look at the candlesticks in a nice basilica. Some dude spent like a year making that candlestick and poured their heart and soul into it to, just engrave it with as much iconography as possible.
Absolutely. Like,
Yeah,
not a wasted inch. If it's
right.
blank, it is blank for a reason, so that to draw the eye to other things, like overly designed, right?
Right. For somebody's future use, that space, it will be used. But yeah, if you got, oh, it's a fiend worshiping, they're an evil cult, and they got a black altar and a shaped like a pentagram, and they got black candles, and they're in a candlestick, and it's, I guess, also in the shape of a pentagram, and you get an uneasy feeling being in the room, and that's it. Well, come on. I know that like the covers of metal albums have more demonic shit on that, and half those guys are actually Christian. Like, come on.
Yeah. The reason that they're so detailed on the album covers is because they're Christian. Like, they understand that you're looking for the detail for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next question. I have here written, what kinds of rituals do the cultists practice? But what I'm asking is, are we talking large group rituals? Are we talking quiet, personal worshiping? Or are we talking like congregations and mass, right?
So,
Are we
yeah.
all holding hands around a bonfire? Or are we listening to the priest? You know what I mean?
Right. So in this case, I think it's going to be something we get into a little later based on the questions. It's going to be, what level are you participating in?
Sure.
Are you an incredibly low level or even like a potential candidate? Are you a parishioner of the cult who's not actually fully indoctrinated, but you still show up, 1, 2, maybe 3, days of the month? In that case, it's going to be, I think in this kind of cult, you are going to be doing rituals that are large because, one, it shows you get a big group of people, and then there's suddenly a mentality of, well, I'm in a room with 50 people and they all seem to be going along with it. 50 people can't be wrong. I'm going to
It's
go with the
herd
flow.
mentality for sure.
Herd mentality, absolutely. And also, the rituals are going to be, I mentioned the escapist earlier, but I'm going to say practically rewarding. There needs to be some direct, loving, open, rewarding thing immediately that's not the give me all your money. It's going to be everybody is here. Okay, now we're going to have the ritual of healing, if you will. And it's not actually going to be healing. It's going to be
Robert, you could
everybody
just say orgy. We know
orgy.
you're leading to orgy.
No, that's the ritual of the greasing. That's that one. No, the healing one would be like, okay, everybody who has something that's broken, you have clothes that are torn, you have a plate that broke, you have something that needs to be repaired. Bring it all up, put it in the altar, and then in reality, the priest is casting mending, right? And they're just
Yeah.
fixing the shit. But also, you're on a goddamn island in a dread domain. That's fucking useful to have somebody who can fix your shit.
Hmm.
Spoiler alert for Curse of Strahd, there is an option. It's a single, like, one or two lines in the book that has spawned, I think, more concepts and desires and interest in like fan writing than anything else in that book. And it is to have Strahd appear to be a normal man walking around,
Oh yeah.
Vasily von Holtz, to throw out, and I did that in my campaign, and I put him in the city of Valakai, and he was a repair guy. He did that. There's a Japanese art, kitsurugi, I think it is. I'm saying it wrong, but it's where they like repair teacups with gold and silver, or they
Oh
repair
yes, yes, yes.
things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's an art form as much as anything else, and so yeah, my party said this guy is valuable. If we break some shit, he can fix it. Oh, he's got this little quirk. It's interesting, and they kind of fell in love with him, much to their later chagrin and to my happiness. But yeah, find something, and if your cult's out in the open and they're trying to attract people, find something that would be practical and in high demand and would give people who are attending almost a justification to go. Like, I don't actually, oh, I'm going to the service this afternoon. I'm not actually interested. I just need to get my pants mended. I just
But
need
you
to
still
get
have to
blank
sit through the
fixed.
sermon, right?
But you still sit through the sermon. You still kind of get that feeling of a group thing going, oh, this is actually, these people are nice. They're kind. They're doing this for free.
And of course, there's the collection plate.
Yeah, there's a collection plate, or there's the somebody coming up and saying, "So will we see you next week?" And you're sitting
Hmm.
there saying, "Well, this person's been kind to me for an hour, and they fixed my stuff, and I'm gonna have to see them." Yeah, you'll see me next week. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's the least I can do, right?
absolutely.
So, and then I would say, the higher the rituals go is when we get into the more devious stuff. My the one of the factors of my cult is that they believe that immortality is achievable through essentially replacing your parts with undead parts to eventually become fully undead. Like, you become fully undead, exist forever, and eventually, when the horde's big enough, we can all get out of here and we'll be reborn. But we don't know when that is, so it's better to live forever as an undead and powerful to reach that end state. And
That
so
is
that
some
would be
ship of Theseus shit that I absolutely love.
thank you. And so that's going to be your higher level rituals, are going to be those indoctrination ceremonies, the replacement ceremonies where somebody gets an organ or a limb replaced or possibly fixed, or even fully converted. And then I've mentioned before that one of the punishments is if you upset the cult enough, they will either turn you into an undead skeleton and have you as a rower forever on one of their boats, or they will, make you undead and then nail you to the skull slash mast head of the Turtle Island as it's floating around. So you get to exist forever in pain on there and be the first thing everybody sees as the island arrives. And so that's going to be like your higher level rituals.
And to be clear as well, if they're going to be grafting undead parts onto you, those parts need to come from somewhere, right? So there might be, when you're talking about the skeletal rowers down below,
Mm-hmm.
they might only be the top half of the skeleton, pelvis up, because they've
Oh yeah,
harvested their legs to give to other people, right?
yeah,
Shit like that, right? Like the people that are in consistent pain that are lashed to the masthead, they may be in sections, right? Like there are
right,
parts of them because other parts have been taken, right? So
yeah,
you've kind of answered the next question already, like what purpose do these rituals serve? And the answer is all sorts of things, right? Mostly for your cult, to bring people in, get them to listen to the message and convert them. But then at a high level, it's for their devious evil nonsense, right? So
right.
there's kind of a
Which, I mean,
graduation, right? From
yeah, so yes, there's graduations depending on what level the cultists are, what level, how hidden the thing is, what level the initiates are, or how initiated people are. But that's something to keep in mind for your players. Like, if your players are investigating a cult, how many rituals do you want them to stumble on, and how many
Yeah.
different kinds of rituals at how many different levels? Is it we're publicly nailing the captain of this one poorly fared sea vessel to the skull, or is it we walked in on the essentially the HOA of the small village who's been murdering people because they've not been keeping up with the rustic aesthetic, and now we're going to discuss the new church to be built after we do our chanting,
Yeah.
right?
So, okay, speaking of this evolution through the promotion factor, are you going to have rites of passage that are required for membership and promotion, or is this something that just like, congrats, you're a lieutenant now, here's your blue cloak, right? And we've got a job to do, or is it more ceremonial?
So I think I'm going to do a little more ceremonial to make it a little more personal for the individual. So I imagined that the individuals who are truly initiated actually in the cult, not just parishioners, are all going to have a necklace that clearly denotes them as a member, and it's going to have a small like turtle scale shell or turtle shell scale, almost the shape of like a shark's tooth, like a small pendant they're going to wear. And when they are in public, the inside of that is face down and the smooth outside is facing out to everybody. And then when they are in private with other true initiates, they flip it over, and on the inside is going to be, scrimshawed carving. And the further in they are in the cult, the more carving will be on there, and kind of actually like a little bit delineating what they did, kind of. The carving is going to be a little bit personalized, but it's going to be a broad theme to show you so that cult members could look at each other and say, okay, he's got that on him. I know he's of this level and he's done these things. It's almost your Boy Scout badging, and the witnessing of the carving by everybody is part of
Yeah.
the ritual, or it's your biker cut, your leather jacket with all your patches on it to denote what you've done. So that's going to be the kind of the lower level, and then once you get to a higher level, it's going to be, again, it's a very mercenary, monetarily driven cult. You are going to be giving stuff, or you're going to be presenting something of value, and in exchange, that's probably when you'll receive your undead graft or something along those lines. Again, ritualized, but yeah.
I keep coming back to the idea of the ritual grafting of undead parts and whatnot, and thinking, what happens to the living parts when it's done, right? Are we just casting them aside? Do we burn them? Do they get a watery grave? Are we feeding the undead that are, that have more agency, that are walking around as higher level members? And it brings me to the next question. The offerings or transfers of power. What does the leader of the cult, and I don't mean like the head cultist, but I mean like the deity, the great old one, whatever it is, a demigod. What are they demanding from their followers? Because and we know for you already, it's like we're building the horde, right?
Right.
But like my very favorite special painting doesn't count. It has to actually have value. However, some dragons, their hordes are built of things that are more than just gold and treasure, right? And it like trophies and things. And maybe like as you slowly construct, this guy was the mayor of a town or a captain of a very powerful ship, and he has replaced all of the pieces of himself till there's nothing left. And now his corpse, piece by piece, has been built back up and is on display somewhere, right? And like that is a full offering of someone, and would be very, coveted, I would say, by a cult like yours. So like, besides just gold and riches, what are we offering at the higher levels?
See, that's a really good question. At the highest levels, other than just eternal service, in the case of the highest ones who are actually running the day to day of the cult for the Dreadlord. I'm not sure. I love your idea of I have slowly given up every piece of myself, and now my earthly remains or my dread domainly remains are in a gallery of remains, right? To maybe be used later to replace somebody else's.
Yeah.
But
I'm not sure
I
that super fits what you're going for, because
right.
you're not, your mummy lord, she's not that ostentatious with the grand cathedral dripping with body parts, right? Like that's not the
Right,
point,
right.
right? So
No, she
I was just
and
using it.
honestly, yeah.
Yeah, just an
Honestly,
example.
she realizes the horde doesn't matter because she as a mummy lord has no connection to the horde.
Yeah.
And you know, kind of as a nuanced thing is the cult is not necessarily there to truly do her bidding. The cult is to constantly remind her of the power she has lost by having these servants who are doing something that is not helping her. Like they are hell bent on doing this thing that does not fucking work, and she knows it doesn't work, but they're going to keep doing it forever.
But okay, all
And
right. So I,
yeah,
I think I remember the answer to this question now. There are parts of her that are missing, right? That she's desperate to recover.
yeah. So there are pieces of her children's soul, and her heart has been divided up into pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, so she, you know, when she became a mummy lord as punishment, it was because she was trying essentially to become a Dracolich as a dragon turtle so that she could forever combat this threat of a kraken awakening. You know, her number one enemy was a kraken. And so one of the things she, you know, was doing was to essentially sacrifice her children and replace her heart in a way, and you know, put her organs in these canoptic jars. And yeah, those have gone missing, and they are in places where she physically will not go because she has one of them still back on her island, and she's just terrified of losing it.
So,
Um,
but this would be the things like the high level people. Like you want to show that you are worthy. You want to get the power that I have to offer you. You want
mhm.
access to my magics and my secrets to eternal life and or eternal undeath or whatnot. Get me the things, right? Like
Yes,
these. That's what they like. It doesn't have to necessarily be a sacrifice like I mentioned before. It would work for some death cults, like taking off parts of you and giving it to the group. But like there has to be an item or a transference of power, or when you get high enough level, your life, your essence will be the thing that I need, and it is a blessing for me to kill you and take it, right? Like whatever it is, your deity, your cult, like the venerated leader has got to be out for something. They've got to be
right.
waiting for the objects or the items or whatever it is to come to them. It's one of the things I don't really like about the cult of Tiamat is she wants to get free. Great, but what are the things she wants beside that? What are
Right.
the objects and items that people are bringing to her? Right? She still has a lair. She should have a hoard, but like, what's the shit? What are the things? Right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Once she's free, then what?
and like in my head it's always been, she wants good aligned dragonborn knights that are like brought to her in chains to kill them, right? Like to make an example for Bahamut, right? And that alone is enough of the motivation. Just bring me his head, that kind of shit, right? So
So in mine, I think I have a better idea now of what you were saying. So I think as I mentioned, material goods is something they want, but something that's even better than material goods are the artisans and artists who can create those things of value.
yes.
And so that's like before we get into, hey, these are the pieces I actually need to complete my ritual, the souls of my sacrificed children and the pieces of my heart from these canoptic jars. It's you bring me that person who you have raised for 10, 15, 20 years to be the best metalsmith and is an incredibly good jeweler. And then you give them to me in my service so that they will create these objects of value from, raw materials, especially at my direction. I want you to make blank.
There's a
Um,
there's a great little like rescue mission involved there too. If you know that after a certain number of years she's going to make them undead so that they can keep working,
right.
right? Like they've done all of the really cool creative best things, they've reached their peak. She still wants the basic stuff they can make, so I'm gonna kill them and keep them forever in my workshops and whatnot. And you've got to go rescue someone who has been there for a couple of years, who needs to get, who's about to get killed. And you just get that information, I don't know, out of a hostage. And now we got to go get this guy, right?
And it could also be your party's infiltration method.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
we have an artificer. Oh, you got a guy who you can make magic stuff? Yeah, cool. We got, 3 square meals a day and a dry bed for him on this floating dead turtle.
So then the question then becomes, what did the leaders get in return? We've talked a lot about what the low level cult members get, the sense of belonging, the sense of security, a sense of because they, if I remember correctly from the previous episodes, we were very focused on the idea of her going after the most vulnerable members of society to bring them in, right? But your high-level cultists are some of the least vulnerable members of society. They are the greedy, the gluttonous, the lustful, right? Like, they're the ones in power that in the average cult, right? So what are they getting out of it? And I mean, I think the answer is obviously just like raw magic power or political power, right? But is there something in particular for your cult?
You're right in that it's raw magic power, raw political power. It is a level of security that nobody else can have, and it is, immortality. I'm also, again, I'm cheating because this is a cult that has been, the very top has been mildly twisted by the dark powers in order to further punish the Dark Lord. So what they're getting out of it is the feeling of a job well done, even though they're fucking not doing that. They're making her miserable, right? By constantly doing these things. But
so it's feeding their ego and their self-importance as well, right?
Yeah, it's their job satisfaction. It's hey, I'm doing a good job every day at this company, and that makes me important, even though, no, not really.
But like, teleportation circles and stuff aside, is there a signature spell or power that you want all of your high level bad guys to be able to wield? Something as simple as just like hovering above the ground, or we can all shoot lightning out of our fingertips, Palpatine style. Is there something?
So it was going to be, hovering was actually up there. It wasn't exactly. I need to figure out what to reflavor as this, but a signature thing they were all going to carry was they're going to have living inside their body a baby or juvenile sea serpent. That because in my mind the corpse, the dragon turtle corpse, and the mummy lord need to kind of reflect each other, and so I thought, hey, it'd be kind of funny if there was a nest of sea serpents living in this corpse going around, because hey, that's a great place for these things to live, plenty of quote unquote food, and it moves around all the time. So in my mind, the actual mummy lord is going to be writhing internally, bulging and shifting in a peristaltic motion with quote unquote small, 6-8 foot sea serpents inside of them. And I was imagining that would obviously be a method of attack. That would be some sort of lash, or, I grab onto you and then I'm just injecting carnivorous sea serpents into you to chew through you. And so the higher level ones, okay, we've fully converted to our undead form. Great. Now we're implanting the sea serpent in you, and it's going to live inside you. And, you can use it as an intimidation display as it's shifting underneath your skin. You can make it come out of your hand as a lash if you need to, do something. You can use it as a spell focus, whatever. So that was kind of my flavor wise, what the higher level ones are going to have to kind of set them apart.
There is, hold on, I'm looking it up now on D&D Beyond. Where are my magic items? There we go.
It's like a symbiont lash. I remember that from third edition.
It's called Dern's Tentacle Whip.
Yep, that's it.
You get a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with this magic whip, but attack rolls made against aberrations with this weapon have disadvantage. You can flavor that to undead or whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
A creature hit by this weapon takes an extra 1d6 psychic damage. When you roll a 20 on the d20 for an attack roll, this weapon, the target is stunned, as well as the crit damage. As a bonus action, you can sheathe the whip by causing it to retract into your arm, or draw the whip out of your arm again. And has symbiotic nature. It cannot be removed from you while you're attuned to it, and you cannot voluntarily end your attunement to it. If you're targeted by a spell that ends a curse, your attunement to the whip ends, and it could detach from you.
So yeah, something a lot like that.
Yeah, yes. That's where I'd start, I think.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that was going to be the higher level ones. And so that was going to just, I thought that would be a neat and a little bit body hoarder, a little bit unsettling. It's like in The Mummy when the scarabs are all running around underneath his skin and then one like passes over his eye or something, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just a little flavor to disturb the players.
No, I really like that. Do you what level are you handing this out? Highest rank only?
I'm thinking probably I need to actually figure out the ranks, but
Sure.
top level's going to get it. So the immediate lieutenants, their lieutenants, and then maybe whoever the head of like each settlement is. So we're talking there's going to be maybe 15, 20 of these out there total at most.
And
Uh,
like a third of them, like 4 or 5 of them might have or 5 or 6 maybe might have a beefed up, scarier version of.
right, or like two of them.
Sure.
That actually what are the body parts being used for? You're going to find the giant incubation room where you're going to find a special breed of undead who are walking around whose bodies are just packed with these things. Got to write that down.
You might
But
want
yeah,
to
there will
look
definitely be levels.
into the monster. I think it was in Volos, the spawn of Kius, which is like a skeleton that's just writhing with worms, or I think it might even be leeches. But again, I think it might be a good place to start. Look at those mechanics for corpses that are riddled
Yeah.
with baby serpents. Okay, so when it comes to casting spells, one of the big things that I've been beating a drum for the last year or so on is that magic should be unique to the caster. It should be very flavorful and it should be easily recognizable by other people that are seeing you cast the spell. Because, we've seen him cast Fireball 3 times. He does it this specific way. It's unique to him. Other people cast it this way. That's unique to them. So, but I like bringing it all together, like for an organization as well, to keep a consistent theme. So, when it comes to the cult's magic, how is it different from other spellcasters? Is it leaving like wet rot behind where their magic hits? Like if you're casting Eldritch Blast at a hero and you miss and it hits the wall behind them, is it leaving a wet spot? Is it like what's making it? Is all their magic green for some reason? Like what's the actual difference that you're going to be able to identify? Oh, that's cult magic.
Well, in the casting of it, one of the things I was going to give to the casters of the cult, they're the higher level ones who have had their body parts replaced or have this symbiote inside them or parasite. That's that the replacement body part is going to act as the spell components and the focus. Like they're going to be able to cast without using the stuff, right?
Cool.
They're not going to be pulling anything out. It's just, hey, they can fucking do it, and it's borderline like, where is that magic coming from? Well, it's coming from them, and that leads into kind of the communication of, hey, they have the power. This cult is going to give you the power to do something. It's not the symbol you're carrying; you can do it, but it's actually the mummified spleen we stuck in you. And I think that the magic as it's going to be cast, there's going to be a lot of chanting, and it's going to be a lot of the chanting of like kind of the ritualized chanting that you would see in a service or whatever. But the verbal components are going to be chanting of the exploits and the accomplishments of the dragon turtle while it was alive. Like it's going to talk, if you're doing create or destroy water, there's going to be a story of when it brought rain to a needy group. Or if you're doing that was the one I had off control water, it's going to be when it brought a tidal wave to somewhere. And so it's going to be a chanting of these fables, almost is going to be that. I think the thing that is going to make it stand out is going to be like a smell more so than anything. It's not just the visuals, but it's going to be this like the smell of a bloated, rotted corpse in salt water. It's this putrid, terrible smell with that sharp salt smell.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime anytime they do something. And, maybe a little bit of like, I think we talked about it before, like out of their undead parts, maybe a little bit of salt or sand comes out. But I think the smell is going to be the number one indicator. And I want to do that because I like the idea of a lingering smell being the information to the party,
Yeah,
uh,
it's a great clue that uses an
yeah,
extra
clue.
sense besides just like what do we see.
Yeah.
So that's going to lead into my next question. We're doing really well in the segues for this, by the way. Except for the first one of the episode, though, that one was rough.
That was the best one. Nope.
Yeah. But you're talking about like the smell and the little bits of sand that could come out of their undead parts and stuff. And I'm like, my next question is, what are some unique quirks and details that the cultists eventually adopt? And that this may not be on purpose, right? It may just be when you're in the presence of, or you gain the magic of, or you have completed the ritual of, this is just a thing about you now. Like your skin is always clammy and cold to the touch as if you just got out of water, right? Like
Right.
something like what is it that's going to be kind of a dead giveaway for people that know?
I think there is going to be one, the kind of an adopted or a performative quirk that the cultists are all going to pick up is they're going, during conversation or while they're talking to somebody, they're going to get especially outside, they're going to get kind of a faraway look as though they are seeing something on the horizon or seeing something in the sky that other people can't see. And then maybe they'll make a comment of, oh, I was just admiring the clouds over there. Oh, I was admiring the horizon. I was admiring the constellation above. And it's that subtle reminder of, oh, I can see or do things that you can't.
Yeah.
And it's taking me away from this place. And I had a moment of levity and I enjoyed it. And I do think that is going to be very performative, and it's going to be, different levels of efficacy depending on who does it. Less controlled quirks, I imagine that, as you have parts replaced, I can see like the point of the graft where it's actually, sutured to your body, people scratching at that. Like I can see them just kind of unconsciously, like, okay, just kind of scratching at that part where the hand connects to their arm, or scratching at, oh, he's kind of scratching at his stomach because he had an organ replaced, and they're not really talking about it. And I would say
it could also be a little bit like it could be more subtle than that as well. Like if everyone in this village, like for whatever reason, they all wear sleeveless shirts, but this guy doesn't, and that guy doesn't, and you don't point it out. You just in the descriptions you drop the fact they've got long sleeves, and then you just keep talking about everybody else is sleeveless, but not these guys. And the reason
Right.
they're not sleeveless is because it's hiding the grafting scars, right? Like
Right.
it could be very subtle at first, and then and they keep scratching at their arm, but they've got a sleeve on, so you don't know what they're scratching at, right?
Right. That, or even I would be curious how phantom pains, like phantom limb syndrome, would work when you had parts replaced. And so maybe somebody it didn't take as well, you might catch them wincing every once in a while, or that person's flexing a lot, like they're stretching, they're kind of, stretching their neck, stretching their back a little bit, as if they're a little bit in pain, a lot more than the normal person, because they are dealing with those recent surgeries or phantom pains. But yeah, I like the clothing, covering the clothing. And then at the higher levels, it's going to be the fact that you've got a sea serpent worm, passing underneath your skin and bulging it out while you're just talking to somebody.
So my dad lost his left leg, and
Oh,
he had phantom pains. And one of the things that he used to do was he would sit there and he would focus on it, and we'd be like, "What are you doing?" And he would say, "I'm trying to flex my toes to get it to go away," even though like there's nothing there below the knee, right? So the idea of them looking at like their hand that's been replaced, and they're just intently focusing on it, and the hand is not moving, but just like, "What are you doing?" It's like balling my fists so the pain goes away.
right.
But they're not actually doing that, right? That would be one of the weird, kind of creepy, strange, like indicators that things are not quite right with this, and people are dealing with that kind of pain where they stop everything and just stare at a body part and will it to do things that it's not doing.
Just a tiny tangent. Do you know what causes phantom pain, phantom limb syndrome?
It's nerve pain, isn't it?
So your brain is incredibly efficient, and when a part of your brain stops receiving stimuli from nerve endings, like in your hand or your foot, because you no longer have it, the that part of your brain shrinks, but the neighboring parts of your brain grow into that space and take it over. And so what's actually happening is you're receiving stimuli on a different part of your body that in your brain was the neighbor of that now missing part's
Hmm.
receptors. So the hands are one of the worst parts, and the feet are one of the worst parts for phantom pain because you've got so many nerve endings. It's and signal receptors in your brain that other parts of your body that also have those high amounts of receptors, the sensitive parts, are nearby. So it's like your hands are in your brain co-located with like your cheeks and your lips. So if you got you would get a breeze across a cheek, it would make you think you're clenching your hand. And your brain was like unable to deal with my hand is being clenched and I can't unclench it. And so now it's saying, well, my hand's been clenched so long, so now I'm in pain.
That's
And
fascinating.
neuroplasticity. It's called neuroplasticity. It's a fascinating thing about how your brain will use parts of the brain that's not being utilized. And they found a very good treatment, not a cure, but a good treatment for phantom limb syndrome, especially for the hands. Was you would put they made a cardboard box with a mirror in it
I've
that
seen
you would
this. Yeah.
yeah, you put your whole limb into the box and it is reflected, and then you put your other limb on the other side and you kind of move your angle so that when you're looking into the box, it looks like you have both limbs still whole, and then you unclench and clench and move and you know exercise your whole limb, and it tricks your brain into thinking you're doing that with the missing one, and it provides that relief you're looking for. Brains are awesome. Brains are weird but awesome.
That's so crazy. Like there is a short horror story in there somewhere, and I fucking love it. Okay, back off the
Back
tangent
back to the
now.
cults. Yeah,
Yeah, back to the cults.
back to the
Um,
interesting stuff, not the brain stuff.
my next question here, I think we've answered it. You can add on something else if you'd like, but at this point, when we've built the organization, we've built the individuals, and we're this far into the methods, I have what makes the cult unique or fantastical. The reason I wrote this originally was just like we said earlier in this episode, a lot of times cults are just like there's a black altar, that there are flames in the background,
Right.
everyone's wearing a red robe, right? Like that's not enough. What makes them bigger and better? Your cult has so much detail and flavor, but is there something we haven't covered yet that makes them like really stand out, or have we kind of hit it all and we can move on?
I mean, I think we've hit it all. I mean, its headquarters is the corpse of a dragon turtle that's been filled with sea serpents and has a pyramid on the back that's floating from location to location with a mummy lord on it. I want to say that's unique. I have not yet seen that in published material, but I also
And
haven't read it all yet.
and it's certainly fantastical. I mean, I've
Yeah.
only ever seen that twice in my life beforehand, just because I live on the coast. So
I mean, yeah, that's fair. When I was actually in the Navy, I mean, yeah, you probably saw that about once every 3 months. But still, yeah, I saw that a lot. I saw fewer of the camels full of snakes, but I saw that once or twice. So maybe I should change it to a camel instead of a
I,
dragon turtle.
no. See, you're so close and you missed it. Fill the dragon turtle full of camels.
Dragon, that's it. That's what's unique about my cult is that it's not that they're replacing your body parts with human undead parts. We're slowly turning everybody into camels. Um,
Everyone's gonna be a humpback.
Everyone's going to be a humpback, and if you're higher up, you're no longer a dromedary. You're a Bactrian. That's a two-humper. But I think this is a great question to always ask. It always ask what makes your cult unique or what makes it fantastical. So the people out there who are making cults, we always go with a cult. We always have the idea of a cultist, and a cultist is almost always a human in a dark robe, and maybe they have fangs or maybe they have snake eyes, and that was fantastical for Conan the Barbarian,
I was gonna
and
say that's such '80s imagery.
yeah,
Like we're past that now.
we're past that. And also, fuck, I mean, bring in the Fey realm. What would a fairy cult be like? What are other beasts and animals and monsters and sentient beings? How are they involved with your cult, and what are they doing?
Yeah.
We got a world of magic. Make it interesting. flip through the monster manual and land on something and say, okay, how can I include that, Morkoth in this thing?
So I think I know the answer to the next question. It's a two-parter. What does your cult do very, very well? And what does your cult do very, very poorly? Like, what is the strength and weakness that your players are going to run into and either smash themselves against or be able to exploit? Do you have anything built in for that?
I mean, I hadn't thought of it in the context of the players, but what the cult does, well, is going to be one, they're going to be very, very well known. They're going to be everywhere, and
their PR firm is just really great.
Their PR is incredible. And also, everywhere there's a PR person, there's also a set of eyes watching you. So they also have a really good intelligence network. And so you're never really going to know when you're talking to a commoner, where does this person sit with the cult? Were they at the last service? And also, I mean, they're providing small, free solutions to everyday problems.
Mm-hmm.
You need fresh drinking water, go to the cult. You need your shit fixed, go to the cult. You need, one of the things I was thinking of was, what are how do you apportion spells at different levels? You prompted me to this thought. And so, for me, the low level is going to be completely the practical stuff of like create water, mending, and prestidigitation. Man, that's going to be useful if you're stuck on a small island.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be providing a service. And so your party comes in and then they burn down the cult's shrine and they kill a bunch of them. And then the parishioners show up the next day saying, great, but my fishing net's full of holes and my fish stew tastes like fish stew. The fuck are you going to do about this? That could be a real problem.
The first thing I'm going to point out is that most nets should have holes. That's kind of the point of a net as opposed to a blanket.
Yes.
This is the inspiration that you come to these episodes for, Robert.
Yes, it is. Let me go write that down. Nets should have holes. Yeah.
So,
so that's the kind of thing they're going to do well, and also maybe they're providing a solution that some of the players would want. Maybe there's somebody in your party that says, I do need something fixed. And of course, what they also really do well is very publicly advertise their punishments.
Yes.
When people cross them, that is a well-known thing, and that when the players come across that, might think twice about, do I want to do this? Well, I don't really feel like being nailed to a turtle skull forever. So, but what they do.
Okay, so what do they do poorly then?
Well, humorously, what they do poorly is actually serve the will of their god. They're not good at that because, again, they're doing stuff that their god actually flatly does not, really want them to do. They're not well hidden, so you're going to know where they are. Where the location of like their headquarters is. That's well known. The shrines. You're going to recognize the higher level people right away. And so rooting them out is not a question of figuring out who is in the cult. It's figuring out how many are in the cult and dealing with it from there. And then from a kind of a cult standpoint, I would say one of the things they do poorly is that their doctrine, their dogma, if you will, doesn't really explain the world or how to get out of the dread domain very well. I haven't really written much of it, but it's really not going to be more than very superficial explanation. But then if you ask any sort of question of it, it's just not going to hold up to any sort of scrutiny.
That's true of all cults. There's a spaceship behind Halley's Comet. Like, okay, what spaceship?
Right.
Don't worry.
There are Thetans that are making you feel bad. Well, where do Thetans come from? I don't know. They're alien ghosts or something. Well, how'd the alien ghosts get here? I don't know. DC-17s were sent here by an evil space lord. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, the further you go down the rabbit hole, the less sense it makes, right? Like,
right.
The other thing that I would say that your cult is probably not. Here's a weakness that I would try to exploit as a player after figuring out what's going on with the low level cult members. Is they're low level and they've been, which means they're not very powerful, but they've been coerced by offering them a better life. They are the most vulnerable people. It would not take much for me to give them a better offer and get them on my side, to pull them away from the cult or to use them as an informant or someone that can leave the back door open, right? I think that the low level members, at least some of them, could be very, very, very easy to manipulate for your high charisma casters that have access to, using the charmed condition on NPCs, right? So
Yeah, and in my dread domain in the campaign, there's going to be a point at which the party will discover a settlement that the cult is not on. There's a settlement that is made up of, just a bunch of boats basically tied together. It's a big floating island of boats and anchors, and it is run by a Merid, who is in charge of the city. And so
Cool.
there is a very real chance of saying like, no, seriously, we can take you to a city where there is no cult, there is no dragon turtle rolling up on the shores every month or two. None of that exists. Is it a way out? No, not really. Is it a better life than you have right now? Possibly. And so creating that kind of ferry service. And I mean, the cult is going to be very good about controlling communications.
Hmm.
And I think what they're going to do poorly is understand how much communication actually should go on between the ports and between people before people then turn to secret communications behind the cult's back.
Yeah.
I didn't imagine any of my players would ever figure this out, but I was planning on as the fleet of ships goes around with the Dragon Turtle Corps, there's going to be levels of mail and cargo being shipped between ports. And one of the things I was going to just kind of passingly mention was um, baby clothes for children, and toys, and also like kids' books, like those little board books.
Yeah.
And in reality, the way that the stitching is done, or the color of the stitching, or maybe something about the way the books are marked, oh, my kid put their thumbprint here, or oh, my kid tore this page a little bit, was actually going to be like a behind the scenes communication method of all of the mothers in the dread domain. Like they are all talking to each other with this secret communication, because who the fuck's going to think, I need to investigate this run spot run book to
It's
see
it's
if
a
somebody's.
it's a really great version of Thieves' Cant.
Yeah, moms can't. Yes, it's exactly, yes. And so I never imagined that would come up. I was just going to put that in there for myself. But that's the kind of communicate, like, since they're going to allow levels of communication, but if they're not allowing just like flat out letters, or they're reading every letter going from place to place because they're the ones that control the mail, they're not going to understand there's going to be a need for a unobserved level of communication
Hmm.
that's honestly non-threatening. Those books that are getting passed around this close, they're not coordinating a strike on the temple. They're saying, hey, we're running low on formula on this island, or we're out of shoes on this island in size 3T. What do you have? It's that level of communication.
Yeah. It's the
But
secret group chat.
it's a secret group chat, but it's also the kind of thing that now the players actually have a method of communication between the islands that could be used for something more, and the cult doesn't know about it.
Now, all of this baby clothes and everything else, is that's because you've been inspired by the actual like baby stuff in your house in the last couple of years?
A little bit, yeah. No, I was definitely like looking at all of the. I mean, originally it came from marking decks of cards, like playing cards. I always thought, okay, maybe that's a method of thieves can't, right? Is
Yeah.
your thief goes in, they're playing cards with somebody they know is a thief, and the person is dealing them very specific cards in a specific order, and it's the way the cards are marked that's actually passing the message on, and it's a complicated message. And then I see how torn up my kid's clothes or his books or his whatever get, and there's a really strong network in a lot of places of moms just passing around. Hey, I'm not going to throw this away. Does anybody need these things? And then, yeah, it's covered in teeth marks or fingerprints or paint or something. It's like, okay, that, if you did it right, that could be a method of clandestine communication.
That's really interesting. And again, segues nicely into the next thing. Are there any specific like political tactics that the cult is using? Like not just political, but like social tactics as well, besides just the come join us, here's what you get. Like is there more subtle espionage going on?
I didn't really have a good answer for this. I mean, for me, the biggest social tactic they're using is going to be a combination of peer pressure and it's peer pressure and it's the escapism. We have complete control to the drug you need, which is not being here, even if it's only for a couple hours. So for socially, that's what I was imagining was
It feels like it's embargoes and sanctions more than actual like political espionage.
well, and then that's where the political tactics are, is the political tactics, they control the fleet and the method of moving from place to place. So
Yeah.
they have complete control of that, because that's the only way the fleet moves is in the wake of this turtle. And then one of the political tactics, every time the corpse rolls into town, there is going to be the understood demand for a display of fealty. And every single town is going to do it in a different way. I mean, we talked about the Andre's Landing, my volcano town with my wonderful my giant ironfoot snails, which is a very militaristic town,
Yeah.
putting on a display of martial force. They are doing essentially what is called a pass and review, where they are doing marching, a drill, expending spells in the air to show their martial power if they are needed to be called upon. I had another settlement where there are going to be zealots who recreate one of the stories from the actual dragon turtle's past, when it flooded a city and wiped it out to get to the cult that it was trying to wipe out. And so what they're going to do is they are going to build like a sandcastle city that, as the dragon turtle corpse rolls into town, the wake of it then washes over and destroys it. And so they're recreating that scene as a cleansing whatever. But also, hey, the kids come out and they have fun because they're building sandcastles and they're doing all these stuff, and kind of like the military one. The kids are like having fun because they're seeing all these explosions and all this military stuff, and it's neat. And it's like, that's how they really start in, is they start very early.
Yeah, with the indoctrination, get them
With
young.
the indoctrination, yeah. And also there's a political statement to be made of, I want you to waste time and resources for pageantry.
Is this part of it? Like, it's really devious, right? And it's also upsettingly close to the real world sometimes. There's a
Yeah.
lot of that in reality. Is this more effective than their combat and fear tactics, do you think?
That's a good question. I think it's going to be it depends on your players. It's what are they picking up, right?
Sure. Yeah.
It's going to be, are your players going to see this and think to themselves, every plan we make, we also have to account for the time it takes to then go and build a sandcastle city. So we can't necessarily count on this whole town to Magnificent Seven style come together and help us defend. Or are they going to see that and say, that's a neat little detail. All right, how many cultists are there? Where are they located? How far am I from them? Are they in a building? Are they within fireball range?
Yeah.
Like that, or are they and I think, the majority are going to be leaning toward the latter. And honestly, my cultists are not really, I mean, the cult probably doesn't come up on combat that often. Adventurers come into the city, into the Dread Domain, and they'll need to deal with them, but they probably rely a lot on the environment to do that for them in the first place, or a big grandiose display of power up front, when they're initially presented to the Dreadlord for inspection as a new thing in the city. And again, it'll depend on what settlement you're in, because does the militaristic settlement necessarily want to do the bidding of the cult? No, but do they know it's better to put down these 4 or 5 lunatic adventurers who just rolled into town to continue to have relative peace because they've seen it before? Yeah, they're probably going to join in on the side of the cult.
Yeah, and honestly, you have such like grandiose punishments as well between the masthead and the rowing forever, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've got the fear tactics already there. I agree with you. I don't think that the cult is used to like straight up going to war level combat, right?
Right.
Do they have a signature move though? Like,
So
everybody carries a
thinking
wand of whatever.
I think it's going to be more of a signature tactic. I'm still kind of working on this. Again, because I think it's interesting to try and figure out what kind of combat method would they use if they are interested in your magic items and your gear. And I think they're actually going to be very much trying to shut you down individually to also save your gear. They don't want somebody to blow through all of their uses of a wand and then maybe the wand is down. And so they're going to start off with, we're going to target some spellcasters with dispel magic and turn your magic items off. And then we're going to grapple and try and take them from you. Like, we're going to try and take things from you to upset the balance of combat, because they also know, I mean, adventurers love their gear. You take that gear away and suddenly they're saying, well, how do I do this? Well, I'm going to divine smite them with my fists. The rules say with a weapon. Oh, well, damn it. And then I think I called this, I like to think about the ocean with this particular cult because they are, aquatic. And so maybe they're going to have a lot of undead servants just kind of in a wave, just overwhelm, just mob up on the adventurers. And then what I would call the riptide of, sure, we're overwhelming you, but we're going to pick out one person and we are going to drag them away from combat. That one person is going to get, your paladin. Yes, they are dangerous and they're big. 5 people are going to grab them and they're going to drag them out of sight of the party. And then they're going to, start taking their stuff away. And so they're really going to play into the fear of, the player fear of, oh shit, they're stealing my stuff. That's my ancestral sword with my whoever's soul in it that you just nicked. Or it's the character fear of, oh my God, they've separated me from my party and now I'm 1 on 5. And then, at the higher levels, we're talking the how effective I can make that sea serpent lash.
Yeah, to be able to target items, right?
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, and then at the higher levels, also control water. I mean, if you're in a aquatic area, being able to just wash the party down and hit them with a wave and knock them off balance right up front before you overwhelm them, or maybe call something out of the water. That'll be the kind of the other, more magical tactics.
Yeah, you could get into a lot of the like storm level stuff too. Like you pull a stinking cloud out of the undead brine. You can hit them with lightning, right? Like you can call lightning down on them. There will be other options, but I like what you have for the signature moves and the signature spells.
Yeah, and I think one other combat tactic that I think the cult is going to use, and it's not really a combat tactic. It's a nuanced thing. Is I don't think the cult ever wants to fight in secret. I think if the players are going to fight the cult is going to try and maneuver it in a way where your only chance is during a sermon, and now you've got 50 bystanders that you're concerned about.
Yeah, and if they win, that looks great for them. If they lose, why would you take this away from everyone?
Right.
It's a win-win situation. Like even in loss, they could win some moral victories or some sympathetic gains, right?
Exactly.
Are there any like other magical tactics that you think the cult used besides just combat? We've talked about a lot of them, right? But
yeah,
like,
I mean,
are
off
they
the top of my head, no. I don't think I think they're being very persuasive. I'm not sure how much mind controlling they're doing. I mean, they're doing fear. They're scaring people. They're really also working on a lot of maneuverability, like we discussed. They got their teleportation circles, but I also imagine that the mid and higher level people are going to have, Misty Step, Dimension Door, water breathing to escape into the ocean, and then make you come and fight them there. So it's going to be a lot about like what the actual cult as a whole is doing. Influence, mobility.
That'd be a really cool thing with the bell full of water for the altar. Is if you were to take essentially the mechanics of tree stride, but make it water stride, as long as they could fit within a pool, they'd be able to like dive in and then like appear somewhere else in another body of water within, I don't know, a kilometer or something.
Right. Wasn't there something about hags being able to like dive into their cauldron? I want to say you guys brought that up in one episode.
Yeah, I think that was a homebrew thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up the episode by acknowledging the fact that every cult has enemies.
Hmm.
You have got the players as being like the heroes in the realm, and while there are going to be a couple of little freedom fighters here or there, or neutral parties like your lizard folk encampment, or this giant floating city run by the Merid, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't really have anything that's like direct opposition, do you?
Sort of. So I have underneath the Merid's floating city. I was planning on putting the best thing. What's better than one cult? Two cults. And so, what's the best thing to oppose a cult is another cult. You mentioned cults inside of cults. Now it's cults outside of cults. And so I was going to make a cult that was actually dedicated to the Kraken that the dragon turtle hated. And so
Nice.
I was going to, Kraken priests. They're going to be Kraken priests, and they're going to have pieces of the dragon turtle's heart. They're going to have some of those objects that the dragon turtle wants. And primarily, they're just going to be, keeping those away from the dragon turtle. I think that they're going to be providing a lower level, but still an incentive to the party when they run into the party to be like, hey, yeah, we're Kraken priests. No, I got it. Yeah, we're also evil. Got it. But we're not this insidious cancer that's infecting everybody else. And also, we're not riding around demanding fealty. So we're the lesser evil. If you want to, we'll give you some help
Yeah.
to go and screw with the big dragon turtle. And they know they can't. They know they're not gonna. I mean, I don't think they're gonna win, but they probably consider it a win that the dragon turtle that opposed their kraken has been locked away in a dread domain.
It's at least a moral victory.
Yes.
So besides just the opposition, it's worth thinking about who else the deity hates, right? And I don't just mean like, oh, we're going to fight against that organization, or there's that one person that keeps mucking up our shit. But like sometimes you think about Strahd. Strahd just fucking hated his brother. That
Right.
was never a factor in Curse of Strahd, but it was a strong detail to that character, right?
Right.
So you have to come up with your deity, your dark lord, whoever it is that's that the cult worships. Who do they hate? And then who do the leaders hate? Is that the same people? Is it the followers of that? If Tiamat hates Bahamut, do Tiamat's cult leaders hate Bahamut's cult leaders? Or is it different? Are they focused on a different kind of order, and the Bahamut feud is just something in the background for them?
Right.
Right. And then who does the average cultist hate? And publicly, does the cult I'm trying to find the word for it, like undermine another organization at every
Right.
opportunity, right?
So
Yeah.
I like all of this. I think when you're thinking about, it's how you want to introduce it into your game. And I
Yes.
think that your what your deity hates and why is a great environmental and exploration thing to introduce as evidence of a cult having been somewhere. We already mentioned like, oh, when they're spellcast and they leave a putrid smell or they leave a wet spot. I mean, there's plenty of times when I'm leaving a wet spot, I also leave a putrid smell. I get that. But I don't do that every time I enter a room because there's usually witnesses. What are things that your cult would do? Like if your cult broke into somebody's house to look for something and they were trying to find something, what might they do because their deity hates it? Does their deity hate mirrors? Does their deity hate organization or chaos? What are those little telltale signs the cultists just can't help but like, oh yeah, we went and they investigated this. It looks like somebody ransacked the place. The mirror was broken. Blah 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 blah. And then on the fourth time you mention the mirror was broken, someone's going to say, "That's weird. The mirror was broken again." That's right, because their deity hates reflections.
Yeah.
And then when you're talking about, the leaders, who the leaders hate, that's when you introduce your social aspect. And like the obvious answer for every leader of a cult of who they hate is one of two people: the other people of their same rank who they are competing with, and the actual head of the cult. Like they are there because of, yes, they venerate, but they're all going to be fighting each other, and they're all going to try and get to the top. And they're going to be providing opportunities to your adventurers to infiltrate the cult and allow themselves to advance through your adventurers' actions. But lower level people goes back to the earlier discussion. How in the open is your cult? Is your cult secretive, or are they very, very obvious? If they're very, very obvious, I would say, a lot of people hate their neighbors. And so your cultists might hate their neighbors or hate other, people of equal strata as them. But what they're doing is they're trying to show off. They're trying to one up them in a, quote unquote, polite way.
Yeah.
And they're using the cult to do that. Like, oh, look at this thing I can do because I went to my cult meeting and you didn't, and I'm better than you.
Yeah.
If it's a secretive cult, it's the other cult or it's the local like number one religion. It's somebody else who's drawing, we'll call it divine resources. And I mean, I love the idea of two cults who are competing because they both need the same, twisty ruby studded serpent's dagger to do different things for their equal serpent cults, right? And so they've got a little capture the flag, internal hatred going on there.
It's like two colleges stealing each other's mascots.
Yeah, rival fraternities, right?
Yeah.
What's your fraternity's goal? To get so drunk I burn my building down. Well, what's your fraternity's goal? Also to get so drunk that I burn my building down. But they've got all the whiskey. Oh, fuck those guys. We're going to get that,
Yeah. So we could dig into. I've got written here. Who opposes the cult? You said rival cult. What motivates the opposition? Does the opposition work in secret? What tactics does the opposition use? What's the end game of the opposition? We've talked about all of these questions for the main cult. It's essentially just start the list over again and come up with another organization, right? So I don't feel the need to dig too deep into it, but just like really quickly glancing off of it. Do you know? You have your Kraken, right? Is there or your Kraken cult? Is there any like government organization or other kind of species that is going to be opposed to the dragon turtle? Just really quick off the top of your head, do the lizard folk?
Yeah, I've got a storm giant who has reduced itself into, I want to call it a storm giant quintessent, the living cloud.
Yeah,
who hated the dragon turtle in real life and then followed it into the dread domain and continues to hate it forever there as a cloud. And so that's going to be probably the party's actual primary assistant and helper is going to be that storm giant quintessent.
Nice.
So that's going to be my biggest one. Some of the political leaders in the towns, like the Andre's Landing settlement, the militaristic town, they're not going to be a huge fan of the cult in general. But yeah, those are kind of the big ones right now are those.
So the last questions, and the thing that we need to think about from a game design standpoint, now that we've built the cult, we've got all the answers, we know who the opposition is and everything else. Do we understand? Do you have an idea, besides just storm the keep and kill the bad guy? How can the cult be stopped? And what happens when the cult's primary objective is thwarted? Do you have plans for that yet? Or are you still in development of that? Like, do you know what the end game looks like? So,
I mean, I do. Your typical dread domain, obviously, the end game is you kill the Dark Lord.
Yeah.
And with, Strahd or any of the others, you kill the Dark Lord and it just comes back, right? If you don't kill it in the right way, it just comes back. And so the cult largely does not care, truly, if the Dark Lord is killed because they know, okay, we just give it a couple of weeks, give it a month, and it'll rise again. Also, it's a mummy lord. That's built into what they do unless you kill them in the right way. For me, it's going to be, the gathering of, and I will say, if the party kills the Dark Lord in just the normal way, call it the normal ending, they'll be able to leave the Dread Domain. Some other people will be able to leave the Dread Domain, but it'll eventually come back.
Yeah, of course.
If you do the good ending, the good ending would be a situation in which you have gathered the souls of her children, you have gathered the remains of her heart, the canoptic jars, and you actually somewhat let the cult finish the ritual that would have made her into a Dracolich. But as she is being imbued, it's interrupted in the right way because now she's vulnerable, and you destroy and truly scatter her essence.
Yeah,
and end it for all, and end it once and for all, forever. It's the was it Conan the Destroyer, where yes, you put the jewel in its head, but then you got to strike it before it starts moving and kill it. Or else it'll be too powerful. That kind of thing, let them start their ritual, strike at the right time. And if, in this case, if the cult is defeated, I mean, they're being held together by the Dread Domain as much as anything else, right? It's the will of the Dark Lords or the dark powers who are punishing the Dark Lord that's keeping the cult alive.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great question in a game of like, depending on the level of a cult or what you've done, like, is it you've lopped the head off of Thulsa Doon and then everybody just walks away with their candles? Or is it you've killed the leader of the local coven and now you've got people hunting you until you or they are dead? Like there needs to be repercussions to wiping out to killing a cult. And it can be as much as you have zealots trying to track you down and murder you because you've, quote unquote, ruined their life and stopped their lord. Or it could be as political as, well, shit, I'm a local noble and, minor lord who was in this cult for fun, but now the cult's falling apart and evidence might come out that I was doing these things at the orgy. I got to have these fucking adventurers assassinated so nobody knows. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there definitely needs to be some sort of follow-on impact and ripple beyond just, hey, good job, you wiped out that cult, thank you.
Yeah, and it's something the best example of it is not even a cult thing, but the best example of the consequences of toppling a powerful enemy is Saruman and Wormtongue going to Hobbiton, right, heading to the Shire to fuck it up as revenge.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you need to have that kind of vibe, that kind of moment, so that you don't just, okay, we stuck the sword in the bad guy's throat, he disintegrated, and we all lived happily ever after, right? There should be more to it, is the point. Do you have any
Yeah,
final thoughts before we wrap this episode up?
Cults are great for campaigns. Cults allow you to just kind of hand wave a lot of logic and explanation. Just, hey, a cult's doing it. Okay, that's fine. And you can have cults at any level, any tier, or any level of impact to a campaign that you want. They can be a small cult in the town, 5, 10 people. It can be a cult that's actually running the nation. They provide you a lot of great tools and a lot of good opportunity to present challenges and rewarding experiences to your players, and also frustrating experiences and situations for you as the DM when your players say, actually, we want to be in the cult, and now we run the cult, and now you've got to figure out how to, keep that going. Yeah, cults
That's why
cults are
it's
a
good
lot
to
of
have an
fun.
enemy organization, have the opposition, be like,
Yes.
okay, you joined. Well, now we have these bad guys over here.
Oh, by the way, Sunday is our Rumble, and it's against the much more powerful cult.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah, can't back out now. But no, I think they're great. I would say that they are, I'm not gonna say they're fundamental to D&D, but man,
They're iconic for sure.
they're iconic. Show me a rule book that does, or show me a campaign that doesn't have some sort of cult running around in it, right?
Or at least zealots, right?
Yes, yes. So use them. They're fun. Put some thought into them. Add those details. Make it interesting. Make it fantastical, and it will be rewarding both to the players and to you as the DM.
Do you have any people, personal social media projects, anything you'd like to mention or shout out?
This time I don't, so I'm always going to do my fallback and shout out my buddy MZ4250. He is a prolific mini or 3D model maker for minis. He's made, I think, in the tens of thousands range now for D&D. Some of his works have appeared in the background of major television shows and movies. And he is a fun guy. He does it because he enjoys doing it. He's also a nice guy, and he really contributes a lot to that part of the community. So I try to always shout him out.
He's I follow him on most social media, and my God, the stuff he pumps out so rapidly too, right? Like, does he
Oh yeah.
sleep?
So he actually came to my house last month because he, his wife, myself, and my wife went to Dragon Con
Oh, nice.
to when that was happening down here in Atlanta. I'm betting one or two of the people who listen to the podcast have heard of Dragon Con. And yeah, man, he was up at 6 a.m. with me because I wake up pretty early, and he was having his cup of coffee, and he was logging in to publish stuff and do some work the morning of. I mean, he That's something I think a lot of people don't realize about individuals who make their living through social media, like, Instagram, Reddit, Patreon, all that. The people who truly do it, it's a job. I know for a fact he is up and modeling every day at 6 a.m. and he
Oh,
is working until 4 or 5 p.m. every single day.
absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
like the podcast, for example, like I'm certainly not making a living off of this. None of us are ever going to get paid off of this, right? Like the little Christmas
Yeah.
bonuses for all the people who do stuff behind the scenes,
Yeah.
sure, but like I never see a cent from this myself. It funds itself at this point, right? And it is
Right.
a full-time job. I work 80 hours a week, 40 at one
Yeah.
job, often more than 40 on the podcast. And I look at the people that can support themselves on it and doing content creation of any kind, whether they're, physically creating something or they're putting out videos or whatever it is. And I think to myself, holy crap, where do you get the time and energy for this? Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, I used to, when I lived in Washington D.C., I went to the closest gym was like a boutique gym, they would call it. It was a very nice gym. And it was definitely not just like a Planet Fitness or a place with a bunch of rusty equipment. Like, it was an extremely nice gym, and there were one or two people there who made their living as like an Instagram gym model.
yeah,
And, if you don't know the people that do that and take it seriously, you think, okay, anybody can do that. I would go in there and I would see these people there at 5 a.m. and they would work out for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And then they would shower, clean up, put on their clothes, and then film their workout for the next hour and a half or 2 hours, because the first workout was to get them in shape for their workout video. And then I would see them, 6, 7 p.m., when I was out at a bar or a restaurant down on the pier taking photos still. So they were at it for 12 or 13 hours a day to
the
make it
grind is
work.
insane for social media.
It is insane. Yeah. So it is not easy. Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of social media, that's all for this art discussion that we've done on cults. Thank you, Robert, for choosing this topic, for workshopping your homebrew, and for supporting the Patreon. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, are we done the cults trilogy now? Are we moving on
Yes.
to other things?
Yep. We are moving on to other things.
Amazing. I kind of know what we've got planned for the next episode. We're sitting down for this, so I'm very excited about it. And thank you, of course, to all the listeners for listening to another episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, where you never know what you're going to get. That's all for this Platinum Greatwyrm episode of the It's a Mimic podcast. This episode and others can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and most other podcast apps. Please take a second to engage with a like, follow, subscribe, comment, or review to help push our engagement. Thanks for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get. If you'd like to support us, we have a store with some merch and a donate button on our website, itsamimic.com. You can also head to itsamimic.com to find a comprehensive episode guide and more information about the show. We do have a Patreon, which not only offers access to our exclusive Discord server, but also hosts over 100 episodes, including a variety of bonus episodes covering topics like 5th edition book reviews and the campaign builder, spells and gods, fae, homebrew inspiration, and even the Blood War. If you'd like to submit any mailbag questions, please reach out to us through any of the social media links in the show notes of this episode, or send us an email at info@itsamimic.com. This has been an episode of It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get.